Now, the August 24th, 2023 City of Friendswood Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting is now called to order. We will begin by receiving communications from the public. To comply with provisions of the Open Meetings Act, the Commission may not deliberate on subjects discussed under this agenda item. However, the Commission may direct such subjects be placed on a later regular Commission agenda for discussion and or possible action. Please note that public comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person. A red light will come on when your time has expired. Also, out of respect for those speaking, please refrain from any outbursts or interruptions which could disrupt the meeting and discourage others from speaking. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak at this time? Nobody? Next is our consent agenda. These items are considered routine or ministerial in nature and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of items unless a commissioner so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Item A, consider approving the minutes of the Planning and Zoning regular meeting held on Thursday, August 10th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Next on the agenda are action items. According to the Planning and Zoning Rules of Procedure, all action of the Commission shall be made by an affirmative vote of a simple majority of the Commissioners present at such Commission meetings. Item A, consider approving a site plan for a new building at 4426 FM 2351, an additional building for Site 1 landscaping. Is there a motion?
I move. To approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aubrey, Becky, can you please provide staff comments?
Yes, sir. So this, as stated, it's for Site 1 landscape. The property is zoned industrial, and their new building is 602 square foot storage building, and the site is also going to provide for additional outdoor storage space. It's connected to their existing property. Access is through their existing property, and everything is fenced and screened. And they meet the overall minimum landscaping requirement, and the new building is approximately 20 feet tall, so meets the minimum or maximum building height as well.
Okay. Would the developer like to speak? Please come to the podium and announce your name.
Trevor Robinson with North Winds Construction. We've done the past, I guess we're working on our third building out there at Industry Park, Phase 1. So this will be our fourth building out there. It's located back behind Mulch Express off 2051. It's a pretty simple project. Like Aubrey said, it's a 11,602 square foot gable symmetrical 20-foot eve height building. Bunch of paving, pretty basic building.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, anyone?
If you want, we'll get to questions here in a second. You feel free to sit down or stay there just in case.
Right, perfect. I'll
Okay.
stay up here.
Go ahead and start with Commissioner Bounds.
Really, the only thing I was hoping to see more trees on the 2351 side of the building to hide it a little bit more, but otherwise, looks fine.
Commissioner Kerner?
So I did have a question, oddly enough, about trees, because it looked like 15 remained to be mitigated, and I only saw 7 on the plan.
So Industry Park, when they developed it, they cleared the entire area. The original developer did. So as each tract gets developed, they mitigate on each tract. This is the fourth parcel, third project. So there's still 3 or 4 more parcels out there. So when they develop, they will replace the ones that were originally on those portions.
Okay, so that
For
so
this,
in aggregate, they have to add up to the 37 that I saw, I think, on the design. But it said on note 3 that there were 15 still remaining.
Correct.
Those are remaining for the entire.
for the entire commercial subdivision, not
Okay,
just
not
this one
just this
tract.
part.
Yes.
Okay,
This
so-
one, yes, this one piece has mitigated for what they're responsible for.
Got it. That's what I wanted to understand. Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Commissioner Mann?
One small thing I saw, is it 4426 or 4456 in terms of address?
Believe I have actually have it on my cell phone. I can look at the permit submittal. It might be 4456.
That's what it has on here, and then we're referring to it in our stuff slightly different. But the only other question I had is, you have that new building in the back, correct?
That is correct.
And then there's the driveway, which I like. I kind of like the circle where you come in and then it cuts around. What's going to go in the middle there? Is that outside storage space?
That is all outside
Okay,
storage.
okay.
So it would be the irrigation pipe, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, awesome. That's the only other thing. I just want to make sure administratively we got everything right for the address.
Yes, sir. That was probably my typo. I'll verify it though.
And mean to call you out.
Okay.
It's okay.
And I'm good, so you can go ahead and take a seat. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have to edit if that's address is incorrect or the motion or?
I believe the location and the project name is sufficient advertisement.
Okay.
I wasn't even sure if maybe that address, just because it's kind of to the side and then the back, I don't know if that was.
So we're good to vote then?
I think it's 26.
Good catch, Travis. I read it, didn't even know.
He's a
No.
detail guy.
We good with that, Karen? Or-
Yes, I believe the address is 26, is that what we think?
I was going to verify it once I have the hard copies in front of me.
So up there it says 4456.
On the drawing it does.
On the
yes.
draw, yeah,
Like I said, that's probably my typo on the 4426.
4456 is what's on the documentation.
4456 should be more accurate because next door is 445. Is it 52? Yes, it should be 4456 most likely.
Then their paperwork is correct.
So I said it was my typo.
Sorry,
They're right.
I did not mean to.
I'm wrong.
Oh, you out there.
So we've got a motion for the items to just clarify, let's just clarify that we all know that we're voting for 4456.
56.
Okay, now, when you go to Google Maps, 4456 is to the, if you're looking at Friendswood Feed and Lawn, it's to the left. 4426 is to the right, but that's Google Maps.
That may not be accurate.
That's
Okay.
not, it's what's on the documentation, site plan.
Okay, just checking.
Okay, so to
Yes.
confirm,
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. So, Mr. Bounds, if you would amend your motion to clarify the address of 4456.
All the documentation says
Okay.
56.
I would like to clarify my motion, my original motion to approve it with the corrected address of 4456.
okay,
Do I have
Yeah.
to second again?
Second.
Second again.
Okay.
Second that amended motion.
okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item B, consider approving a site plan amendment for the development at 106 Whispering Pines Avenue. Texas Behavioral Health to provide for additional parking. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aubrey, Becky, comments?
Yes, the Texas Behavioral Health Building is under construction currently at 106 Whispering Pines. Eventually, when that building is complete, they plan to move from the existing 104 into that building. But I think they realized the need for additional parking, and while they had contractors out there, so this proposal is to add 18 parking spaces, landscaping, and a dumpster pad site to the property.
Okay. Is a representative from the development here speak?
He is not. He's out of the country. But I told him I would try and answer any questions if I could.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Kerner, would you like to start?
I didn't have any questions on this one. It seemed very straightforward to me.
Okay, Commissioner Mann?
Nothing to add. More parking.
Okay. Commissioner Bounds?
No, sir, I like that it's surrounded by trees, so I don't think there's much more to add to that.
Okay. Same here, no additional questions. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item C, consider making a recommendation to City Council for the proposed amendments to Appendix A sign ordinance. Becky, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aubrey, Becky, you want to explain what we're doing here?
Yes, sir. This was, we did consider the sign ordinance at the last meeting. We had another issue come up, and so while we're in the process, we figured we would consider this change as well, and include it in our recommendation to council, if y'all are okay with that. So the current regulation, it's regarding signs above the roof line, basically. So the current regulation is that no sign shall be attached to a building in such a manner that the sign surface or any part thereof exceeds in height the lowest uniform roof line or parapet wall of such building, whichever is higher. So the proposal is to change the wording so it's not quite so confusing, to say that if it exceeds in height the highest roof line or parapet of such building. So basically, a sign, like the example that we have is there's a sign, it's exceeding the uniform roof line, which is the most common roof line, but there is another portion of the building that is still taller, so it's still not exceeding, the highest part of the building. So that was the intention, was to make that allowance.
Very good. Commissioner Kerner?
So this seemed very reasonable to me, especially considering how much time we spent on signs before. This gives flexibility, but I think still stays within the aesthetic of what we were trying to achieve with the signs. So I support this change.
Commissioner Bounds?
Nothing more to add.
Commissioner Mid?
So in this example, I think it looks fantastic. And I was thrown off at first because I'm like, oh, this is an easy one. Then I started reading a little bit, so I had a little bit of questions, and I'm not sure who to direct them to exactly.
Go for it.
So we're not giving an exemption for this scenario. We're actually changing the words and for the regulation. So in doing so, we have to look at what it says and try to think outside the box of what could be interpreted by that. So now, if someone puts a gigantic steeple or something, then they could put a big sign just underneath the top of that steeple. And I don't think that's the look we want to go with, and certainly doesn't relate to this that we're looking at here. So I just want to make sure that there might be another rule that prevents that from happening, but I think it would look silly. I don't know that anybody would do it, but if our rules are such that they could, we're stuck with it. And then I will defend them later on if they want to do something that looks silly. I'd be like, we should have been better. So that was my only concern, and I'm not sure what the solution is.
So I actually had a similar thought when I was looking at this, but and this is kind of, I think, to your question, you use steeple as an example. A steeple is not a roof line or a parapet. And I think those have very specific definitions, but I'm looking to both Becky and Aubrey to tell us otherwise. So I think that's what protects us in this case from the scenario that you just outlined.
Okay.
So we asked the building official, like I said, we were in a meeting with him today. So we asked, so I think we can differentiate the difference between a roof line or a parapet and like an aesthetic, like belfry, chimney, tower. Those are included in our building height measurement, with the exception for steeples, ornamental,
Steeples, ornamental,
religious
Symbols, right?
religious.
Yeah.
It's got real vague.
That exception
wording.
that
a
we
bad
did,
example then.
but-
So if we have a cupola that we tend to think of as being like this, but a big cupola that maybe has some height to it, then we can have a sign on that. So that's just kind of where I'm going with. We just got to make sure what's the height of the additional, a cupola, a parapet, or whatever we
And
choose.
maybe just adding an additional sentence to this, that signs may not be placed on belfries, chimneys.
Well, I don't even know if that's,
The building code also, like, there's a difference. So if it's 200 square feet or more, or less than 200 square feet, and it's used for just storage or something, then it's like aesthetic. It's not part of the structure.
Oh, I hear you. Okay.
But if it's more than 200 square feet, it's
Part of the
more,
building. And then we have height restrictions based off of what you're building.
yeah.
Yes, the building code and the fire code both had other like requirements for things that are not part of the habitable part of the structure. So storage, towers, things like that, they're kind of categorized differently. I think Kathy's was kind of on the right track as far
Yeah,
as
I think
it's
I'm
not
with you. I'm with you. I just want to make sure I'm not missing
the roof.
something.
but
Yeah,
what if you had this scenario with this building and you had that center part or to the left part that's a little bit higher and it goes up another 15 feet for an office or something of that nature, then they can make that sign 15 feet higher.
well, and they can now if they attach it to the face of the building. This change is specifically to go above the roof line because in this specific example, because that's a glass building, they don't want to bolt into the
Yeah,
side
right,
of the
right.
building so that if you look at the side view of it, that sign is sitting on top of the roof line. It like hangs over it. So if they had a taller portion of the building, they could mount the sign to that building right now. Oh shoot, as is. I'm leaning on my keyboard here. So I think it's two different scenarios.
Okay. I'm just like Travis, though. I don't want it to come back and bite us.
Right.
later.
No, agreed. That's why we want to talk it out.
Well, and this requirement, they would not be able to go over the roof line of the higher portion of the building because then it
Correct.
would exceed
Correct.
all the roof line.
But it could get higher as the middle part gets higher. It could get higher as well.
Yeah.
But I
But
think
not
we're
to
covered
exceed the other
highest
restrictions that we have.
portion.
Mhm.
Right. In that, which I think saves us. So
Right.
I'm convinced.
And they do still have a square footage maximum. So even if they had the leeway to hang the sign above the roof line up next to a tower, it can only be so big. They can't.
The size of the sign.
Yes.
Right.
I think
But-
for this build, because we give them each floor, I think it's like 1,300 square feet, roughly 1,300 square feet of sign area, and this is like 900 and something of that square footage.
Total, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, total.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
one
and
sign's 300.
That's their
and
sign
something
area,
square
and then
feet.
they can divide it up into, they can use it all on one sign, or they can put multiple signs on each side, but it's still that same square sign area.
Awesome.
So just so everybody just understands their options, if this did not pass, then this building would have to come in for a amendment or not an amendment, appeal.
They would not qualify for a variance.
So they would just absolutely not be able to
They
do it.
wouldn't be able to bolt the sign to the glass.
I just want to make sure everybody up here knew what their options were. I'm good with it.
No more
We got a-
questions.
We got a motion, and a second. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is communications, and we'll start with announcing that the next Planning and Zoning Commission regular meetings have been scheduled for Thursday, September 14th, 2023, and Thursday, September 28th, 2023. Item B, receive council liaison updates concerning action items taken by the city council on P and Z related items. Commissioner, or Councilmember Hanks?
Yes, Joe sends his apologies today. You all know where he is, I think, so I'm sure he's having a good time. There are a couple of things that were accomplished at the last city council meeting that you'd be interested in, and I think first and foremost, we talked about our budget. We will be having a special meeting Monday night to finalize the budget, and we talked about a proposed tax rate. We haven't voted on it yet, but we're proposing a tax rate. And we thought it was going to be a little over 2 cents. And as of today, this evening, I heard from Arad, and because of the diligent work of the staff in really formulating that budget and tightening it, we think it's going to be about a little over a penny in an increased tax rate. And this is at least the first time the tax rate's been increased in about 5 years. And the values have come in, as you know, really well on existing property as far as increase. They were pretty high, but and then the new values that were added to the tax rolls, but they weren't still enough to keep up with the voter-approved bond packages and now that we've sold those bonds, the payments that are required to pay those bonds back. So it did necessitate a bit of a tax rate increase. And then also, the mayor formed a ad hoc committee to talk about parking. And Sally Branson on council will be heading that up. And they announced people who would be on it. And Tom is going to be representing P&Z. I don't have a lot of information about that. It was just brought up that night. And so I think it's to explore parking. But whatever they come up with as a recommendation will come back to P&Z. And then you'll flesh it out from there and then make a recommendation or not to council. So there is an ice cream social coming up on Labor Day at the Perry House, right? Aubrey, do y'all remember Perry House? It's one of those
I believe so,
museums
yes.
right there. Yeah. Free ice cream. Come on out. It's, I think, at 5 in the evening now. Pushed it back. It used to be in the afternoon, and now, since last year, they've pushed it into the evening to get a little bit of relief from the heat. But come on out. It's a nice,
Cool
fun
down to
community
what,
thing.
3?
Yeah, to about 103. That's right. That's right. And I think that's about it. Can you remember anything else?
If you don't mind me commenting on the tax rate portion, that 1 cent still has us well under what the bond projection was going to be, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And when we went out for that voter-approved bond, we were talking about at least 5 cents to pay all those bonds back. I think it was even closer to 8 cents. Most of the bonds are going for flood mitigation, but there's also the new fire station and retrofitting the emergency management office, the old Food Line building off of 2351, and some other things, the police station. So yeah, the increased in property appraisals have helped to keep that number down, but it wasn't quite enough with post-pandemic inflation and trying to make sure your employees get some kind of cost of living increase as well. We still needed a tax rate increase, but they've done an excellent job, in my opinion. You know, a budget is just a planning document, and so they're trying to plan for over a year in advance, and so it's hard. There's a lot of moving variables that they're not always in control of, but I think they've done a really good job of trying to keep it down. So my hat is off to them for that.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Okay, we can continue with continue with communications from our commissioners. Commissioner Bounds.
Other than thank you for the support, Katie and Aubrey and Becky.
Commissioner Kerner.
Ditto.
Mr. Mann.
Just happy to be here.
Yeah, so the parking committee, I mean, we have our first meeting next month, so we'll know more after that. But Commissioner Rives is also on that committee, so we'll go to staff. Aubrey? Karen? Becky? Okay. With that, thank you everyone for attending this evening to the August 10th, 2023 Planning and Zoning regular meeting is now adjourned.